as I mentioned, yeah, so it's a bit different. As I mentioned, I've been mentioning the last couple of classes, building up to this. See, it won't be slides. We'll be doing like a reading together. And Maharaj, some of you might have read, or as I've mentioned, Maharaj very expertly gives a contemporary example of someone coming to Krishna consciousness and going through all the different stages of elevation and finally going back to Godhead. Yeah. He describes it in these this is part 5, and it has 2 chapters. So we probably won't get through it today. Probably today, next week, maybe the week after. Let's see how we go. Now, just to describe, that you know how how Maharaj has written it. You see here, we will read this introduction. It's important to read this, but just to let you know, like Maharaj, there's at the end of each section, there's like a footnote. You see this in yellow? So this is the stages that the devotees are going through or experiencing in Krishna consciousness. If you have the hard copy, what is in yellow, you'll find it in the notes at the bottom of the page. But here in this PDF is actually included in the paragraphs themselves. So you get the idea. So here's another footnote. This is actually a footnote, but here it's been put in the actual paragraph. Yeah. So it diverts from the story and tells us what stage this is equivalent to. That's very interesting. All right. So we need some hands up if you like to read. Let's offer some prayers to Srila Prabhupada, of course, first. Without his grace, we wouldn't even be contemplating reading such subjects. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bhastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasesha Sunyavadi Pashtatara Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Everyone can hear me clearly, I presume? Yeah. Can't hear any complaints that I can't hear. It's a good sign.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So what I do is I will tempted to read the first part.
The only thing is, sorry, Modi Prabhu, we can't see you. We only see Radharanda Nishwara.
Okay. Perhaps that's better.
Jai. Better.
Now you can see Lord Nrsingadev.
Jai, thank you.
Right. Hare Krishna, yeah, a bit more personal. Okay, so I read the introduction, which is only a small part, and then we can, Sahachari has a hand up. Yeah, she can read first. If others would like to read, you can raise your hand. Okay, introduction to part 5. The concluding chapters of Suddha Bhakti Cintamani describe how a faithful devotee of ISKCON treads the path to perfection from beginning to end. Achyutananda Das is a typical devotee who joins ISKCON and serves Lord Chaitanya's mission while following the path of regulative devotional service. Achyutananda Das is a fictional character, as are the other personalities, places, other than the holy dhams, and events in this narrative. The story of his lifelong devotional practices, realizations, services, and perfection is meant to show how to apply the many aspects of pure devotional service praised in this book within the context of Srila Prabhupada's movement. In his teachings, Srila Prabhupada repeatedly assures his followers that if they follow his instructions, which he summarizes as chanting 16 rounds while trying to avoid offenses and strictly following the 4 regulative principles, they will go back to Godhead. This account of Achyutananda Das's devotional career shows how any devotee can approach and attain life's ultimate goal by following Srila Prabhupada's instructions, both in principle and detail. Yoga patra hoy tomi bhakti pravittete yogya patra hoy tomi bhakti pravataite krame shaba tattva shuni kahiya tomate. You are fit to propagate the cult of devotional service. Therefore, gradually hear all the truths about it from me. I shall tell you about them. Quote from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 20, text 107. All right, so we're clear where we're going here. And it's not just one devotee, there's other devotees included in this story. But again, as Maharaj says, he's a fictional character, but it's plausible. Anyone heard of the word plausible story? Plausible means it's going on and it's actual reality, what is being described here. Kind of, yeah, it's plausible. It's not fiction. Yeah. Krsna Consciousness is not fiction. It's real.
It's attainable.
Yeah, it's attainable. All right. So, Sahacharimov, you can begin. Chapter 31, Achieving Steadiness.
Steadiness. Alex first met the Harinam party while on his way home from the university. After 3 years of computer science study, he was convinced that technology was not what he was looking for. Absorbed in his disappointment, Alex hardly noticed the robed chanters until he almost bumped into them. And when he did, he was at once confronted by a shaven head monk who offered him a booklet in exchange for a donation. By the time the booklet was purchased, the chanting party has moved on. The music merely an echo in Alex's head. And for no reason that he could fathom, the echo seemed strangely familiar. Inadvertently, hearing the holy names and purchasing a book, Alex had no idea who the Vaishnavas were, nor did he have a desire for spiritual life. These were pious acts performed unknowingly or ajata sukriti.
Yes, okay. So that's the unknowing devotional service, okay? Performed unknowingly. Yeah, we follow. Yeah, we follow that. So we have all benefited from that. We have all somehow came in contact. Yeah. You can read on, Mother Sachari.
Yeah. The book Alex received, Ecstasy, Journey to Other Planets, didn't even make it to the bookshelf. He left it in the foyer of his home and forgot about it until some weeks later, when his mother asked, Alex, is this your book? Yes, he answered, and took the book into the study for a casual read. But the casual read soon turned into an eye-opening experience. Alex read of a spiritual alternative to the rat race for which he was being groomed. The spiritual alternative presented in the pamphlet seemed both scientific and theistic, and the cutting edge of modernity but steeped in antiquity. He wanted to learn more, but his girlfriend and impending exams temporarily suppressed the desire. Later, he even saw the devotees distributing food at a rock festival and avoided them. Still, it didn't take long for his interest to rekindle after his girlfriend ditched him and his parents chided him for his mediocre grades. At the end, he decided to visit the local Hare Krishna temple, where he purchased a copy of Bhagavad Gita as it is. The unknowing pious act Alex had performed fructified when he read Easy Journey to Other Planets. His devotional piety, Bhakti Unmukhi Sukriti, was his appreciation of Prabhupada's writing. In a distressed condition, Artha, he turned to Krishna, which began his fruitive devotional service, Karma Mishra Bhakti. Alex was sharp and the Gita fascinated him. This was not the pamphlet of a new sect, but the philosophical underpinning of an ancient world religion, Vaishnavism. He read the book through first and then went back to study it more carefully. The author's train of thought was logical, consistent, authoritative, and demanding. Krishna was not mincing words. After constructing a philosophical fortress, impenetrable to doubt or skepticism, Krishna wanted the listeners to capitulate. Srila Prabhupada sustained Krishna's exclusive call to surrender in every purport of every verse. Krishna and his empowered representative were like an invincible tag team that Alex could not disregard without being untrue to himself. This is just what I have been looking for, he cried. This is it. By studying the Gita, Alex's distress disappeared and he became fixed in the knowledge of Krishna's divinity. Gnasa Mishra Bhakti. Gnana Mishra Bhakti.
Jnana, I think that's the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we'll just pause there. You can see
Yep.
Karma Mishra Bhakti and Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Yeah. We clear of that Karma Mishra's devotional piety, Bhakti Kriti was his appreciation of Prabhupada's writings in a distressed condition. So he's wanting something in return. Yeah, he's wanting freedom from suffering. So that's his motive. So his bhakti is mixed with karma. Yeah, Mishra means mixed. So his bhakti, in one sense, yeah, he's turned to, he's appreciating Prabhupada's book, and he's appreciating it as a means to be free of stress. So karma, so his bhakti is mixed with karma mishra, karma. And then Jnana Mishra. So he begins to become enlightened in knowledge. So his motivation gets upgraded. Rather than wanting freedom from anxiety, he's become excited, or he's become attracted to the philosophy. So now he's a Jnana Mishra Bhakta. Okay. Yeah, he's interested in the knowledge. He's not so much interested in devotion to Krishna. He's been captivated by the knowledge. So just thinking, perhaps I'm just looking at devotees here, looking at you, so myself as well. So just reflect on when you first got a book and your impressions that it had on you, and the time where you read it and what was going on in your life. You know, we've always somehow we've got that story to tell, so we can relate to this story. Yeah. Anybody else like to read?
You reading from the book? Or is it?
I am. Yeah, you can see it on the screen.
Yeah, can I read, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right at the end. It's just chapter. It's right at the very end.
Yeah, Alex.
You got it?
Can I read, Prabhu?
Yes, you can, Mother. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Is that correct? The ISKCON temple was a handsome townhouse near the commercial district. Is that correct, that place?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Thank you. And the devotees operated a small self-service restaurant on the ground floor. Alex took advantage of the temple's
It's
proximity.
gone so hokey jai. Go on, carry on.
Yeah, temple's proximity to his university campus and began to frequent the restaurant at lunchtime. The food was not only delicious but unique. Alex could not fathom how his newfound faith was literally being nourished by
Sorry.
his meals.
Yeah.
That's okay. By his meals. About the restaurant was, exactly, so was street temple. About the
Yes.
restaurant was a temple room complete with altar, Indian paintings, and the deity of Srila Prabhupada, the founder of the Krsna Consciousness movement and author of the new books he had been reading. It was here that Alex would regularly hear from devotees, and from one devotee in particular, Pusta Krishnadasa. Alex would put questions to Pusta Krishna from his study of the Gita, and the two would talk well into the afternoon. faith in and knowledge of Krishna consciousness prompt a sincere person to associate with devotees, sadhu sangha, and to inquire from them about the cause of the soul's entanglement in matter and the process of liberation through devotional service.
Okay, so now he's got the association of devotees. Yeah, sadhu sangha.
Can I continue? Or?
Yes, you can. Yes, yes.
Gradually, Alex's perception of the world and his own way of life changed. He recognized the futility and transience of a godless life, and he was now convinced that the God of all religions was the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna. He became a vegetarian, set up an altar in his room, and began to chant japa daily. His parents greeted these developments with mixed feelings. Alex was their only child. They welcomed his early rising, regular bathing, and cheerful self-confidence, but they worried about his increased detachment from his studies and promising career. One morning, over breakfast, Alex's father said, "Son, balance your religious practices with fulfilling your worldly responsibilities. Many good people consider their profession a service to humankind. Service to humankind is real service to God." Alex did not reject his father's proposal at once, but after discussing it with Pusta Krishna later that day, he concluded that such conditional worship of the Lord would not satisfy Krishna's call to surrender. Seeing the Alex's initial practices, which constituted unsteady devotional service, Anistita Bhajana Kriya, his alarmed parents proposed that he serve God by working for humankind, that is to perform Karma Mishra Bhakti. Oh, so
Okay, follow that as well.
beautiful. Oh my God.
Steady. So
Continue, Prabhu, or somebody else?
you can continue if you like.
Yes, I want to see. Okay, thank you, Prabhu. One winter day, Alex returned home.
You can see. Oh, she's frozen.
Frozen.
Frozen in time. Frozen for the next 10,000 years.
Gosh.
It is quite cold in Scotland.
The winds.
The wind. I can just continue until she comes with again. One winter day, Alex. Okay, you're back. You got cut off there, Nimai Mata.
Oh,
So you better start again from one winter day here. Oh, you got stuck again. Mihai, perhaps you can pick it up from here. Mihai, Prabhu.
I could, please. I would be very happy. One winter day, Alex returned home to find his parents in the living room, conversing with what appeared to be a Hindu priest. He was dressed in Indian clothes, dhoti and kurta bats. Unlike the temple devotee, he had the large red dots on his forehead instead of Vaishnava tilak. After introducing himself as the head priest of the Hindu Mandir temple, the Brahmana guest at the behest of Alex's parents began to extol what he called the true path of Sanatana Dharma. According to the Brahmana, whose name was Trilokeshvara Mishra, Lord Krishna's real follower, neither preach nor artificially renounce the world as a member of ISKCON. Instead of Krishna states in the Gita 367, real devotee perform karma yoga and are elevated gradually and systematically from earth to the heaven, and then beyond the Vaikuntha. Your qualification to serve Krishna, Alex, is your profession. Karmani evahi karaste, but you should work with detachment as an offering to the Lord.
But it seems like here,
Alex
just like Maharaj here, he's bringing in a character, or also Alex perhaps coming from a Hindu background. Perhaps that's my speculation here, because there's a Hindu. I might be wrong, but anyway. So I'm sure devotees who join Krishna consciousness from Eastern or Hindu tradition, this is likely what they might go through. Their parents will, get the local Hindu priest to convince them. Anyway, you can carry on.
Alex was confused by the Brahmana scripturally supported arguments. In the presence of another authority on the Gita, he thought maybe there are other ways to follow Krishna than the way taught by the devotees. The Hindu Brahmana, throughout culture attuned to Krishna consciousness, did not have pure faith. He though advised Alex to follow the indirect path to perfection rather than the direct path, pure devotional service. Because Alex's faith and knowledge were still weak, his beginner qualification, Kanishta Adhikari, could not protect him from being confused by the apparent contradiction. Thus his confidence in the devotee waned. Trilokeshwara Mishra.
Pause there a second. So we can all recognize this. We've discussed this many times, yeah? Kanishta, Madhyam, and Uttam. So one of the symptoms of a Kanishta is that their faith is very pliable. So generally you're going to see that when persons are first coming to the temple, they are not convinced. Yeah, at our Friday evening Sangha, there was one Indian man there, a young man, and he was listening with interest. Then he asked a question, and it was obvious he was then questioning me, and I think, and also Kavi was there, about why do we believe in Krishna? Why? What have you experienced? So he was listening with interest, but in asking us, then he was revealing his doubts. So you're going to see that when persons first come to the association of devotees, they're very weak faith. They have faith, something. They have something. They're attracted to devotees, but they could go either way. Yeah, depends. They could go back. They can go either way. Take up devotional service or go back completely to gross material life. Like that. If anyone has any questions, you best to unmute and ask, because hands generally means you want to read. But if you have a question or something to share, you can unmute. Yeah. Okay, you want to continue? Haipu, perhaps.
Yes,
finish.
please.
Yeah.
Trilokeshwara Mishra preaching has Trilokeshwara Mishra's preaching has affected Alex. He stopped visiting the temple and eating at the restaurant, but he could not give up reading Srila Prabhupada books or chanting on his beads. He continued doing these things at home, albeit with less enthusiasm than before. In fact, Alex even began to woo an attractive Gujarati girl who was in his class. One day, as he and his new girlfriend dined at the Indian restaurant, Pushta Krishna walked through the door with an armful of books. He greeted Alex warmly, and after delivering a set of Srila Prabhupada books to the restaurant manager, presented Alex with the newest book of Godhead, Back to Godhead magazine. He then invited him to the temple. For some reason, Alex could not quite explain. He felt ashamed. He looked at the door through which his devotee friend left, and then at his girlfriend, Sunita. His face flushed as he realized, I am in Maya. Although Alex has just begun his practice of Krishna consciousness, Krishna did not forget his service, even through done neglectfully. Bhagavad Gita 2:40. He thus arranged for Pushta Krishna to meet Alex again and inspire him to surrender further. Guru Krishna Prasadepaya.
Yeah, perhaps just that Snehi Bikram Nashroshti Pratyavayana Vegetation Alpam Vidanasha Triati Mahato Bayat. Even a little advancement in this path can save one from the most dangerous type of fear. So he had made some steps forward. Yeah. And so it describes here Krishna did not forget that. Yeah, so he inspired Alex from within to surrender further. Yeah.
But it's interesting because he felt ashamed.
Yeah.
So that's because he had some pious activities. His heart, it moved inside.
Yeah, because he did have the association of devotees, and association with devotees is very, very powerful. You know, and sometimes it's let's say it's not kind of, it's unconsciously very powerful. Let's put it like that. So therefore, you know, because remember, Pushta Krishna, he was preaching to Alex, so he had faith in the character of Pushta Krishna. So when he walked into the restaurant and saw him with his new Gujarati girlfriend, then he was feeling a little bit guilty. But anyway, he took her back to Godhead magazine, like that. All right.
Have you put this, the highlighted? Did you put it in? Because my book doesn't have that.
No, you can see I'm putting it in as we go.
Yes, as you go.
To highlight Maharaj's commentary on the stages which we're seeing.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Would you like to read Mother Chandravali? Your hand is up there.
Yeah. Okay. So it's from Alex.
Yeah.
Resumed. Alex resumed his regular visit to the temple, but this time he attended with Sunita. She was an avowed demigod worshipper.
Avowed
demigod worshipper. And the exchange between her and Pushta Krishna intrigued Alex. What intrigued him most was their argument about whether in the ultimate issue God was personal or impersonal. He felt like his intelligence was at the center of a tug of war in which his attachment to Sunita was on one side and his respect for Pushta Krishna on the other. He had to decide for himself, so he dove headlong into the study of Srila Prabhupada's books, Sri Ishopanishad, the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and at last, Krishna book. Within a month, he had no doubt that God was the Supreme Person, that the Supreme Person was Krishna, and that in his original form, Krishna was a coward who enjoyed pastimes of love in rural Vrindavan. This is the answer without a doubt, he concluded. And by his reading, he came to another conclusion, one that surprised even him. He found himself wanting to be like Pushta Krishna. He wanted to give his priceless knowledge to others. As Alex gazed admiringly at a picture of Srila Prabhupada, he felt an overwhelming sense of obligation and love for his divine grace. You saved me. You gave me a reason to live, a reason to die. And Srila Prabhupada smiled back.
Yeah, I remember, if you don't mind me interjecting here, personal story. I remember when I was reading the books where I was living and looking at the pictures, and that's a similar desire I had, that I really want to be just like these people.
Yeah, in the beginning.
And I just want to be like these people. And I mean, I got the Nectar Devotion through the post, and I couldn't understand much of it. But I was looking at the pictures. Then I got a magazine. It's called Who Are They? Now the pictures of devotees on the farm. I think it was Vrindavan. And I just kept looking at the pictures again and again and again, and I wanted to be just like them. You know, I was envisioning myself with a shaved head. Anyway, my hair was only retreating anyway. I was it's just like young boy or teenagers envision being pop stars or musicians or whatever. They have this dream of perhaps being dancers or something. So in the same way, that was kind of, I was thinking like a bit like that. You can continue.
Well, I was just thinking, is it not the same still, that we look forward to being like, you look at really advanced devotees and
Yeah, same, just that. Yeah.
You think, oh, what does it feel?
Yeah.
How does it feel?
Yeah,
What do you think? How do you chant?
Yeah, that continues. Just so our what we want to be just gets higher.
Yeah.
Eventually, we want to be like the residents of Vrindavan.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to be just like them. We want to be just like them, the same mood as them, the same love for Krishna. You know, we want to be with them. You know, but it starts from to be with the devotees. Then ultimately, it gets more and more. You could say more and more specific. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, you know, so here's Alex. He's now convinced Krishna is the Supreme Lord. So let's see what happens after this point. You know, you can read more if you want, Chandravali. I cut you off there.
I was going to give you a little example of how.
Yeah.
Like I heard the pastime of Radharani's nose ring that had fallen in the water, and then anyway, cut it short. Like have Lalita saw it, and then she just looked at her next manjari, who then looked at another one, and they went and picked it up and gave it to the other one, gave it to the other one. They eventually put it on Radharani. It's like, you know, you just that picture, how just by a glance you can, you know, all these things manifest, you know.
Yeah. Just right. Yeah.
You kind of feel, oh, you know, when will you get to that kind of, that even by looking you get the whole, you know, picture.
Yeah, like that's what, you know, that could be an aspiration, a samakanta, where, oh, why, when will I be blessed to pick that ring up? When will I be blessed to pass that ring on to another Saki?
Yeah, like
they will give it to Krishna.
Yeah.
Yeah, when that's yeah.
Anyway. Oh, sorry. Can somebody read?
Okay.
I can read, Prabhuji, if you want.
Yes. Go ahead.
Can I go?
Yes.
Is it from this was Alex's first spiritual experience?
Yes. Oh yeah, so just here, sorry. Yeah, this is a
Alexa.
yeah. So they're just yeah, so here he's having his first spiritual experience. Something quite profound. He's looking at the picture of Prabhupada, and Prabhupada looks to be looking back. Many persons have had that type of experience, you know. Okay, you can continue.
This was Alex's first spiritual experience. Prabhupada, who had left for this world before Alex was born, was present in his photo. From that former portrait, Srila Prabhupada showed his pleasure with Alex by smiling. When Alex saw the smile, he felt as if the whole world was pleased with him. He had never felt so good. He wanted to feel this way forever. More, he wanted the whole world to feel this way. Alex was 22 when he received his first book, and 24 when he enrolled in the 3-month introductory course at the temple's small farm on the outskirts of the city. His parents begged and is it cajoled?
Yeah, sorry, I just got you're reading from your own book there, so yeah.
I'm reading from this book.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah. But so I missed that part. So here's another part here. Guru Krishna Prasade Bhai, Bhakti Lada Beach. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Prabhupada had bestowed some mercy upon him and planted the seed of pure commitment and pure devotion. Yeah. Sharanagati here. Yeah. Prabhupada's, so it can come directly from Prabhupada himself. Yeah, that's how powerful Prabhupada is, you know. So he receives some mercy. Yeah. Guru Krishna Prasadi Bhai, Bhakti Lada Beach. Okay, you can continue, Mother. Sorry for cutting you off. But...
That's right, Prabhuji. Sunita cried and offered to marry him. Trilokeshwara Mishra even visited the farm where Haridasa, the temple president, politely but soundly defeated the Brahmanas' arguments. Alex was resolute. He now had a clearer purpose in life. He wanted to please Krishna by pleasing his representative. Oh, sorry.
Everyone's phone's ringing.
Sorry. Purpose of life. He wanted to please Krishna by pleasing his representative, especially Srila Prabhupada. None of his relatives, friends, or acquaintances could budge him from his resolve. Alex shaved his head clean on the day he arrived at the farm, adorned with a small tuft of hair called sika, small beads of tulsi round his neck, neatly drawn tilaka on his forehead, and dressed in a dhoti and kurta. Alex looked effulgent. You look like you just stepped down from the Vaikuntha, said a smiling Pusta Krishna. Shall I carry on?
Yeah, because because you're reading from the book, you don't have the footnotes directly there, so I'll read this. Alex could take to the direct path of pure devotional service by Krishna's grace, which descended to him through Srila Prabhupada and his representatives. This direct path is the path of liberation. Mokshashami ma suchaha. Yeah, that's Savadamam Priyachyamam Ekam Samrambhaja Samsapabhyo Mokshashami ma suchaha. Yeah, so just keep in mind, this is following a path of Krishna consciousness, which some of you might relate to, but some of you might have a different path. Like this, I can relate to this because I joined a temple. Similar, I moved into a temple, became a brahmachari. Yeah, but some of you have taken up Krishna consciousness from another setting. Yeah, and so you have your own. You will go through these different stages of faith, Kama Mishra Bhakta, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, and then commitment to the process. You have your spiritual experiences, but maybe from a perspective where you're not in the temple. Yeah. So just keep that in mind. Yeah. So we can all relate to this from different ways. You know. Yeah. So you can read a bit more.
Thank you, Prabhuji. The temple program was not new to Alex. He had lived in the temple for as many as 3 days at a time, but he never intended to stay. After the early morning cold shower, he tried to follow the meaning of the hymn sung at Mangala Aarti, Tulsi Aarti, and Guru Puja. It was a lot to take in at once. He found the Japa period rewarding and the Srimad Bhagavatam class stimulating. But most invigorating was breakfast. He had never enjoyed quite like this. The fruit, cereal, and milk were the same ingredients his mother served. But when offered to Krishna, their taste was special. Alex became conscious of the farm's Radha and Krishna deities through the effect they had on the food offered to them. Although he had seen Gaura downtown and Radha Krishna at the farm, somehow their presence had not registered with him. The impact of their divinity dawned in him more and more as he engaged in committed service to them. This service had begun with his tongue, with tasting the remnants of the food offered to their lordship.
So this is a footnote, so I can read this. Again, in the hard copy, it's at the bottom of the page. But Krishna reveals himself in proportion to the devotee's service and surrender. Yayita mampapadyante. Thus, to neophytes, the significance of devotional activities, such as deity worship, for instance, that Krishna is present in the deity, is not appreciated in the beginning, but grows as they advance. At the stage of ecstasy, the spiritual significance of both devotional service, bhakti, and Krishna are fully realized. Yeah, so some of you might have had a similar experience. I had that experience. I wasn't even conscious of the deities in the temple room. It was just light, not like the white light, but there was no specific attraction at all. You know, it was just like looking at someone's mantelpiece in their home, you know, some fancy things on the side. It wasn't like, wow, this is a supreme person. But at some point that changed. By the grace of Krishna.
For us, probably because we kind of grew up with Krishna.
Yeah, with deities. So
I mean, we won't have that knowledge that this is really Krishna, but this is like deity of Krishna, you know?
Yeah, so see different, yeah, you can imagine coming from the West. I haven't even heard the word deity in my life. Never even seen a deity in my life. Only seen statues on people's mantelpieces, you know, let alone worshipped as being the Lord. But, you know, so it was all very new. It was all, but by the grace of the devotees, I was pretty convinced.
But I'd like to understand that. I would just think like Western devotees who are not into at all religious or anything. How did they get birth?
Well,
Like,
see, as I said, first, I didn't really appreciate or even hardly see or even hardly register the deities on the altar. It was only after, like here, like as Alex, is only after I was eating Vashadam, during attending the morning program and doing devotional service, that it started to become more apparent to me what was on the altar. Yeah. So yeah, so I was so uncultured and unacclimatized to deity worship or to deities. As I said, even to have the word deity, you know. But then because of the Bashad and because of the cleaning the stairs, that was my first service, was cleaning the stairs with Radharaman. You know, it was cleaning the stairs and doing other services, chopping vegetables, devotional service. Then ye yata mam papadyante tam tadeva bhajami aham. As they surrender, then Krishna rewards. Krishna gives insight, you know.
but what I wanted to understand was where you live in your Krishna conscious, you take it up, right? So obviously they've done something in their previous lives. So how do they get birth in families like that where they're going to eat meat and things like that? But they've already done Krishna conscious before.
Yeah, so therefore, I mean, I don't know. Apparently, I
Thinking
was,
to myself, you know.
yeah, I mean, in my last life, I'm not, you know, apparently, I won't go into details. but it didn't take much for me. It didn't take much. I mean, I didn't have any arguments against the significance of the deities, for example, once it was explained. As soon as I heard about the philosophy and of the deities, for example, I just accepted it, and I didn't look back. You know, so it wasn't much. So that was what was coming from a previous life, probably. You know,
Yeah.
but now in this life, it was all confusing. I hadn't come across, you know, I hadn't come across such things, but it didn't take much. Didn't take much convincing. You know, I easily accepted it. Yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, we can't see God. He comes in a form that we can see. You know, and you know, he comes in the form of so-called material elements, and as we advance, it become more apparent to me. I kind of accepted it quite easily. I didn't put up much of a fight.
Yeah, just wonder, most of them eat meat and things like that, and they still come
Sorry,
into.
there's someone else. Yeah, someone else is there
Yeah.
speaking.
Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I think Prabhu, I was going to ask you. Now, when when I heard your story, like you are the chosen one, basically, it
You're
was very
chosen.
straightforward.
Everyone's.
You are a chosen one. It's very straightforward. But seeing even Asian backgrounds, their grandfathers worship Krishna, everybody worship, but still they have millions of questions and questions and questions. You know,
Yeah,
still they can't get to anywhere where you how you came. You know,
yeah. Well,
so it
sometimes,
is so
yeah.
very.
Well, a lot of Westerners. That's where, I mean, that's the benefit that they had. They wasn't, you know, they hadn't been exposed to kind of, with all due respect, to the Hindu hodgepodge.
Yes,
So
yeah, they're
it was like a blank slate. It was like a
blank
slate
slate.
completely.
Yeah.
So that's one of the advantages that Westerners have sometimes. It's a complete blank slate, but some persons coming from India, there's so many deities and so many different misconceptions. It's like very difficult to make their way out of that jungle, sometimes,
Yeah.
by Westerners. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Westerners just happily took to Krishna consciousness in the early days. No problem, because they didn't have the hodgepodge
Yeah.
to contend with,
Yeah.
So advantages, disadvantages on both sides. That's one of the advantages of coming from a Western background, that.
Biggest advantage, Prabhu. Biggest advantage, because confused mind is.
Yeah, well, though now if you look in India, there's thousands of people joining Krishna consciousness
Yeah.
from by the thousands of people. Their temples are not big enough; they can't basically. Yeah, so it's happening in a big way in India now. It wasn't so before, so it's an advantage in that sense to be born in the. I was just reading just now in Bhagavatam, Punya, what was it? Punya Punya Bhumi, the place of piety. That's India. So it does have its advantages. All right.
Also, Prabhu, one thought of when you are in India, you don't value them, but because I came to Krishna consciousness, Samudra the people there, they are dying. They just wanted to get something spiritual. So when you are out of India, many devotees, they became Krishna conscious away from India, not in India.
Yeah. That's Krishna's arrangement as well. They're in a different environment.
Yeah.
Where different environment is needed for them. And often Krishna arranges it like that. Krishna will put you in a different environment before the seed of bhakti is ready to be planted.
Yeah.
Yeah, a different it's life situation, a different environment, so it becomes easier to accept the path of devotion. Yeah. All right. Who was reading last? Yeah.
Was reading Prabhuji last.
Any other readers out there? Who's
Please, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Is it from the first day?
Yes.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. The first day was filled with classes on Srila Prabhupada's books, devotional life, and the culture of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. There was lunch, another unforgettable experience, time for rest, and then a few hours of chanting with the other devotees on the streets of the city. In the minibus that drove the devotees back from Harinam Sankirtan, Alex met a married couple, George and Sheila, who had joined a few weeks earlier. They had both been art students, and whereas George was outgoing, a joke a minute, Sheila was grave and demure. When they entered the temple room for Gora Arti, George engaged Alex in a kind of boisterous dancing that made Alex abandon all inhibitions and better taste the nectar of the holy names. Alex, who did not mix easily with people, had found. Sorry.
Carry on.
Alex, who did not mix easily with people, had found a friend, or rather, a friend had found him. After evening Bhagavad Gita class and supper, the men retired to their quarters, the women to theirs. Lying awake in the darkness, Alex thought over the day's events. It had been exciting. I wonder how many days it will take for me to become a pure devotee, he wondered.
How many days it will take to
How many days will it take for me?
He had rarely slept elsewhere than in his own room at his parents' home, and it took some time for him to fall asleep. When he did, he dreamed of devotees, kirtan, and the deities. It was all very wonderful. Srila Prabhupada wanted his followers to be trained not only in philosophy but in the culture through which that philosophy is applied, the pure culture of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Srila Prabhupada therefore called the Krishna consciousness movement a cultural revolution. Most days of the introductory course were like the first day, and when the course was complete, there were many similar days in what became Alex's place of service, the downtown's preaching center. But during his first year of service, something had happened to Alex's initial enthusiasm and clear purpose. Day by day, his habits and desires from the life he had left behind, feelings he had thought were gone for good, gradually crept back into his consciousness. In addition, his normal attentiveness in japa class and personal study was being undermined by unbecoming thoughts, drowsiness, and petty distractions. Alarmed by what he perceived in himself, Alex approached his mentor, Pushta Krishna, and revealed his mind. Expect more of the same, replied his more experienced friend. You are at the beginning stage of devotional service, and there are many unwanted things to be purified from the heart before you can chant and hear without distraction. Pushta Krishna placed his hand on Alex's back. Remain strict in your practices and persevere. Your time will come. Alex was comforted by this advice, although it predicted a long struggle ahead. Whenever obstacles or bad habits attacked him full force, he would remember Pushta Krishna's words, remain strict in your practices and persevere. Your time will come. He had faith in Pushta Krishna Prabhu, whose guidance had already helped him overcome many difficulties. Alex was confident it would continue to do so now and in the future. The past unwanted habits of neophytes make them susceptible to the influence of the lower modes of nature. Thus, their devotional service is unsteady, anishta bhajan kriya. Such unsteadiness has 6 symptoms, one of which is sporadic endeavor, gana tarala. It is also fraught with obstacles such as disinterest, aparatipati. If such unsteady behavior is not kept in check, it results in offenses to the holy name, aparadohota, and mistakes in executing service, bhaktiuta, which makes unsteady service even more unsteady. To overcome such unsteadiness, Alex received 2 essential instructions: remain strict in spiritual practices and persevere.
Okay, perhaps we'll just pause there. Some of you might recognize this. This book we mentioned a few times is from Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, called Madhurika Dambini. Yeah, so it describes the stages of unsteady devotional service. Yeah. So also at this point, there's been a couple has been introduced. The name. So they become as husband and wife and living outside the temple, or couple, and they take up Krishna consciousness. So the story will unfold with this couple as well as Alex. You know? But yeah, so we can definitely perhaps relate to this. I can relate to it when we come to Krishna consciousness. It's all very new. It's all very enlivening. It's all very it's more than enlivening. It's a wonderful experience. But then your old self creeps up. Yeah. Your old samskaras, hasn't just disappeared. So then we have to, as good advice that he's received here, important at that point to remain very strict in our practices and persevere. Yeah. Any comments or questions on this? Good. Unsteady devotional service. We can read a bit more. Got 5 minutes left. You can continue reading, perhaps.
Sure. Since leaving the introductory program, Alex had been engaged in temple services such as washing kitchen pots, cleaning the building, and doing the men's laundry. It was menial service, but it was rewarding. Alex felt especially good when he was on his hands and knees scrubbing the bathroom floor. Still, his mind sometimes screamed, "This is undeserving of a university student with a 140 IQ." Still, he persevered. And George was always there, never far away, having become a waiter in the restaurant. He would always raise Alex's spirit with humor and good advice. George and Alex shared a common secret desire as well. They both wanted to distribute books. They served, watched, and listened to the book distributors when they returned from their distribution on the streets or door to door. Both friends wanted to dive into the ocean of nectar in which the book distributors were obviously swimming. When, because of that desire, they could no longer fix their minds on their respective services, George and Alex nervously asked the temple president, "Can we become book distributors?" "Yes," came the answer. "But first, give me some time to find someone else to do your services." The 2 main limbs of Lord Chaitanya's mission are to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Nam, and to show mercy to living entities, Generally, proper chanting under Lord Chaitanya's guidance results in the devotee developing a mood of compassion displayed by some form of preaching activity, in this case, book distribution. The taste of book distribution surpassed Alex's expectations despite the intense austerities he had to perform in order to do it. That taste fueled his desire to study Srila Prabhupada's books even more than he had done before joining the temple. When Alex applied what he read, for example, Prabhupada's guidelines on regulative devotional service, he gained increased mastery over his mind and senses. This experience boosted his faith in the scriptures and the devotional process, and he became very serious about spiritual life. While Alex was diving into the ocean of knowledge contained in Prabhupada's books, George was feasting on the ecstasy of book distribution. In this way, the two friends delighted in Krishna consciousness. One evening, while chatting over prasada, they both came to the same conclusion. We should get initiated by strictly following the principles of regulative devotional service, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Alex was able to control the urges of the mind, belly, and genitals even while impurities, anarthas, remained in his heart. This gave him faith in the potency of the rules and regulations. Devotees serious about advancement, who understand the principles of devotion, are naturally inclined to commit themselves to the disciplic succession, to the process of spiritual initiation, diksha.
Yeah, so I'm sure most of you here have been through this process or going through this process where you actually, the faith increases to the point of becoming interested in taking initiation. But here's some valuable lessons here as well. Become strong in being able to control the senses, and that will give you faith in the process itself. Yeah. Let's perhaps just read this last paragraph here. Okay, you can perhaps read this last paragraph, Mother, and then.
Okay, sure. Senior devotees regularly visited both the preaching center and the farm. Alex had listened to and observed the behavior of these Vaishnavas. Many were exemplary, some, by his limited perception, were less than ideal. He had heard about senior devotees initiating spiritual masters, abandoning both their disciples and Krishna consciousness. He wanted to make the right choice. He had already accepted Pushta Krishna Prabhu as his Shiksha Guru, but Pushta Krishna would not and could not accept disciples in the presence of his own spiritual master. In Govinda Maharaj, Alex found a Vaishnava in whom he could place his full faith. Alex was drawn especially to Govinda Maharaj's strict adherence to devotional principles and his very philosophical presentation of Srila Prabhupada's teachings. Do you want me to continue?
It's a long prayer. Perhaps let's stop there on a bit of a cliffhanger.
Okay, thank
So
you.
very interesting, yeah? Very nice story. So we're going to hear how Alex, this story goes all the way to where he goes back to Godhead. And his path is not always straight. Yes, he comes across some challenges, but eventually he goes back to God. So we'll be reading all about that, his life and his different stages that he goes through. All right. So
Story or is the real person?
lot of hope.
sorry, there's a couple of questions. I heard two voices there.
Sorry.
Go on, someone.
I was thinking, is this a story or is the real person, Alex?
That's what. Well, Marge did make that point in the beginning. It's not it. The experiences what he's explaining here is factual.
Yes.
He's experiencing them. He's experienced it himself. Other devotees have experienced these stages and these different situations. But it's not like, for instance, here. That's why Maharaj, I can remember when the book came out, he had to do a few podcasts to tell everyone that these characters like Govinda Maharaj is not the Govinda Maharaj.
I was just thinking that.
He's his best friend, because that's what everyone thought.
Yeah.
It's just Maharaj, yeah. But some of these, obviously, what he's explaining here, he has experienced himself personally, or other persons have experienced it. So he's, yeah.
Plus,
But it's not. It's not. God.
He's got he's showing us how the book has gone, from the beginning.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, showing how the different, how someone advances to how they, taken first,
Yeah.
taken in a wonderful way
Yes.
that
How
a
you have,
different person for the different stages. Yeah.
yes, and have the emotions from, you know, how we feel emotions, like, am I doing right? I should be thinking this, shall I do this? Shall I, you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Maharaj is going through, teaching us how a devotee is going through.
Yeah.
And it'd be good when we find the end that he's going to really go back home. So we have something.
Hopefully that will be our end story as well.
Yes, our end
Yeah.
story as well. So we can wait for
Yeah.
that, when to give up all these material attachments and go back home.
Yeah. All right. So we'll begin here next week. I'll just highlight that. So we begin here next week and we hear more about Alex. Okay. Right. So thank you everyone for your joining us
Thank you
again.
so much.
Frank,
you very
just very happy to have you with us reading this, and